On August 5, 1962, police arrested Mandela and Cecil Williams near Hoog, 136, imprisoned at Johannesburg Marshall Square Prison, charged with inciting strikes. Workers leave the country without permission. Representing himself with Slovo as legal counsel, Mandela sought to use the trial as a display of the ANC's moral struggle against racism while supporters demonstrated outside the court. 137, transfer. Mandela went to Pretoria, where Winnie could visit him, and in his cell began to study by correspondence for a Bachelor of Law, LLB, from the University of London. 138, the hearing began on 15th of October, during which Mandela went on strike for wearing traditional crosses and refusing to call any witnesses, and turned his case into a political speech. Considered guilty, Mandela was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. As he left the courtroom, his supporters sang Nkosi Sikelel' Africa. In a way I never fully understood before, I realized the role I can play in court and possibilities before I'm accused. I was a symbol of justice in the court of the oppressor, representing the supreme hill of freedom, justice and democracy in a society where those virtues are offended. Then I realized there that I can continue fighting until, in the enemy castle. 140 Mandela, 1994. 11 and Boo. 1963. The police raided Berlilev's farm and arrested him. Found them there, and discovered papers documenting MK's activities, some of which mentioned Mandela. The Rivonia trial began at Pretoria High Court on 9th of October, with Mandela and his comrades charged with 4 counts of subversion and conspiracy to violently overthrow the government. Percy Utar was the chief prosecutor, who demanded the death penalty for the defendants. 141, Judge Quartus Sawet quickly dropped the charges for lack of evidence, but Utar redrafted the charges, refiling the case between December and February 1964, calling 173 witnesses and bringing thousands of documents and photographs to trial. 142, with the exception of James Cantor, who was acquitted of all charges, Mandela and the other defendants pleaded guilty to sabotage but denied any consent to igniting a guerrilla war against the government. They used the trial to highlight their political cause. One of Mandela's speeches, inspired by Castro's "History Will Forgive Me" speech, was widely reported in the press despite official censorship. The trial brought international attention, with international calls for the release of the accused coming from institutions such as the United Nations and the World Peace Council. The London Union University voted Mandela president, and organized night vigils in front of St. Paul's Cathedral in London. 144. However, the government of South Africa ignored all requests for clemency, considering that the accused were violent communist instigators. On June 12, 1964, Judge Sawet found Mandela and 2 of the defendants guilty on all 4 counts and instead sentenced them to life imprisonment. Mandela and his fellow defendants were transferred from Pretoria to a prison on Robben Island, where they remained for 18 years. 146, isolated from non-political prisoners in Section B, Mandela was imprisoned in a moist cell measuring 8 by 7 feet, with a straw mat to sleep on. 147, he was physically and verbally harassed by many white prison guards, and the Rivonia trial prisoners spent their day breaking rocks in quarries, until he was transferred in January 1965 to a lime quarry job. Mandela was initially forbidden to wear glasses, causing permanent damage to his eyesight from the lime. 148, at night, he attended his law degree, was banned from newspapers and was held in solitary confinement on several occasions for possession of contraband news clippings. 149, after being classified as a prisoner with the lowest grade of control, Class D, he was allowed 1 visit and 1 letter every 6 months, with strict censorship of all his mail. 150, political prisoners participated in hunger and work strikes, which Mandela later considered largely ineffective, to improve prison conditions, viewed as a microcosm of the anti-apartheid struggle. 151, elected by Congress prisoners as a member of the High Machine along with Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, and Raymond Malib, and in a group representing all political prisoners on the island of Olandi. which allowed him to strengthen his links with PAC and members of the Uchi Club. 152. He established Robben Island University, where he lectured the prisoners according to his expertise and specialization, discussing with his companions issues such as homosexuality and politics, and engaged them in a heated argument with Marxists such as Mbeki and Hari Jawala. 153. Although he was a Christian and attended Sunday Mass, Mandela studied Islam. 154. He also studied Afrikaans, desirous of building mutual respect with the jailers. Beginning in 1967, prison conditions began to improve. Black prisoners were given trousers instead of blankets, toys were allowed, and food quality improved. 161. In 1969, a plan for Mandela's escape was orchestrated by Bruce Gordon, who was abandoned as a result of the infiltration by an agent of the South African Bureau of State Security, BOSS, who hoped that Mandela would be shot if he escaped. In 1970, Commander Pete Badenhorst became commanding officer. Mandela, seeing an increase in the physical and psychological abuse of prisoners, demanded visits from judges, leading to Badenhorst's transfer. 163. He was replaced by Commander Willie Willems, who sought to develop a cooperative relationship with Mandela and was keen to improve prison standards. By 1975, Mandela had become a Class A prisoner. 165, allowing him more visits and letters. In the same year, he began writing an autobiography, which was Fleeing to London, without publishing it. 167, he devoted his free time to gardening and reading up, until he resumed his law studies in 1980. 168, by the late 1960s, Mandela's fame had been eclipsed by Steve Biko and the Black Consciousness Movement, BCM. The movement, which viewed the ANC as ineffectual, called for militant action, but following the Soweto uprising of 1976, many BCM activists were imprisoned on Robben Island. 169, Mandela tried to build a relationship with these young extremists, but was critical of their racism and cynical.